What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Run Your Race show with your host, Akeem
and Chanelle.
First, before we begin, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Let us know what you like about it, what you don't like about it, what you'd like to see us improve on. Let us know in the comment section below. Before we start, we had a pretty busy weekend, a little reunion with your Lady Vols. It was Tennessee Strong. Do you want to give them a little recap on where we were and how was it?
Yeah, we went to Memphis, Tennessee for the Fulton wedding. Shout out to Brittany and Dustin. A beautiful wedding for a beautiful couple. Like you said, I got to see a lot of my former Tennessee teammates, the Lady Vols, and it was just really great to see them. You know, that's one of the things I love the most about track and field is the relationships it brought me. So, you know, Brittany and I go way back. She was a bit younger than me at Tennessee, but once she did come, I kind of took her under my wing, and we've remained close friends ever since our time there. So you got to meet some new Lady Vols. You've met a few in the past, but you got to meet some new ones, and yeah, it was just a lot of fun. So
it's a lot of orange over there, but it's still SEC all day, every day. Now, there was an action-packed weekend of track and field, so much events across the world, so much different races, man. It was tough to kind of navigate through everything, especially although we had, but let's get into it. So this is some of the ones that we have been paying attention to. We're able to watch, able to see. I guess the next question is, where do we start? You know, what were some of the highlights for you? We're talking about Atlanta, Rabat Diamond League, LA. There was also meets in Italy. It was a lot of different things happening. Where do you want to start? I will follow your lead.
I'm going to do the 400 meter and up, and I'm going to start in LA at the Grand Prix. I want to start with Michael Norman. He ran a solid 400, you know, 44:53, but it's not always about the time you run, right? Mm-hmm. He beat a solid field, Karani James, Vernon Norwood, and he looked good doing it. He looked dominant doing it. And we know that these athletes are most likely in a heavy training block right now. And so, like I said, it's not always about the time. It's about coming out there and getting the win. We saw Gabby Thomas make a tweet that said, look, I am in an extremely heavy training cycle right now. So that's what you guys saw at that LA meet. It wasn't my greatest performance, but I committed to this meet a while ago. And so I wanted to show up for my fans and still compete. And so you can respect that. And yeah. I think a lot of athletes are in a similar position. They're heavy legs right now, heavy cycle, and still competing. And I love to see it. And so shout out to Michael Norman. He probably wanted to run faster, but again, he beat a solid field. Someone who did run extremely fast was, I believe they're still training partners, RYR Benjamin in the 400 meter hurdles. One of the prettiest runners I've ever seen, one of the prettiest races I've ever seen. It looked effortless. I'm sure it wasn't, but it looked like it. And, you know, Dos Santos ran 46.8 last weekend, and then RYR came out and said, I got something for you, and ran a 46.64 in LA this past weekend. And so now we're just waiting for Karsten Warholm to show us where he's at, you know, and I mean, again, it was a beautiful race by RYR, very fast race. And I'm just excited to see those three duke it out in Paris this summer. Every time they step on the tracks, history seems to be made. So, phenomenal race by RYR Benjamin. On the women's 400 meter side, we saw Paulino take the win in 50.27, which she probably wanted to have run faster, yes. But again, where are these athletes at in their training? Probably in a very, very heavy load. So she beat a good solid field, which is what matters, getting the win. But even more impressive to me was second place, Mary Mora from Kenya. She's an 800 meter runner, and she ran 50.56. And wow. That is very fast for an 800 meter runner. And what's also interesting is that Killy Hodgkinson, another 800 meter standout, also opened up in the 400 meter last week, and she ran 51:61. Again, a very respectable time for an 800 meter runner. And Athing Mo was scheduled to run the 400 in LA. She pulled out, don't know why, but she was scheduled to run the 400. So you have Mora, Hodgkinson, and Mo, who are favorites to win medals in Paris, and it seems like they're all working on their speed right now. So I thought that was very interesting. It just goes to show how fast the 800 has become and how our top prospects are really focusing on that speed side. So, but shout out to Paulino for getting that win. Also in LA in the 800 meter on the men's side, Bryce Hoppel, an American, he led 6 men under 145.
Wow.
And he took the win in 1:43.68. That is fast. I hope he goes and sits down for a little bit because that is extremely fast. He has to feel confident going into the USA Championships and then on to Paris. So shout out to Bryce. And then on the women's side, we saw 4 women break the 2-minute barrier. It was a close race. The top 2 really duked it out coming down that final stretch, but we had Nakai from Uganda. She ultimately took the win.
It's a good race.
Yeah, in 1:57.56. Now, Nakai is the 2019 world champion. So we talk about Mo and Hodgkinson and Mora a lot, but she's probably like, look, I'm here too, and I'm here to stay. So she took down a solid field. Shout out to her. And on the women's 1,500 meter side, we saw 4 women break the 4-minute barrier. And ultimately, TG from Ethiopia took the win in 3:55.25. So, 55. Yeah, last week we talked about, times aren't that fast. Well, these are some fast times in at least in the middle distance and up that I'm reporting on. So it was a great. I thought the LA meet was a really good meet. And then going over to Rabat. In the men's 400, Alexander Doom of Belgium, he ran slightly faster than Michael Norman did in LA. He ran 45:51.
Indoor champ, right?
Yeah, so he's continuing that.
It's not a fluke.
Yeah, exactly. And then in the men's 800, again, we saw 5 men under 145, right? Yeah. And so Wanyoni from Kenya, he took the win in 1:43.84. So whenever you see 1:43s, these men are rolling. They're ready. And then on the women's side in Rabat, we saw 3 women under the 2-minute barrier. But shout out to Prudence of South Africa. That's not a name that we've heard in a while, but she won the event in 1:57.26. And so she's like, I'm here. I'm ready to compete with the best of the best.
157s.
Yeah. And so she ran slightly faster than that field over in LA and now has the world lead. So,
wow.
Yes. And then at the ATL meet, I'm just going to shout out Tara Davis for her amazing win in the long jump. She went 7:17, a new world lead. I think she already had it, but she's definitely making herself the person to beat in Paris this summer. And she now has a new outdoor personal best to celebrate. So excited to follow her the rest of this summer. So yeah, that was what stood out to me. I know it was a lot, but it was a big weekend in track and field. So what about you?
I'm going to start in LA. You did the 4 and up. I'm going to do the shorter stuff. LA, got to start with 100. Melissa Jefferson, 11.27 into a negative 2.4. Now, the time doesn't seem crazy fast, but with that 2.4 headwind, man, that's taken that time down to 11.0, maybe even 10.9. But she's been putting together some really good races in different ways. When she was out in Miramar, she was out at the front. In this race, she was kind of behind and she had to be patient and relax and find a way how to come out and win. I think one of the most things that you have to understand, any athlete, and for those that aren't, different days, you're going to have to find a way how to win the race. It's not always going to be how you want it to. And sometimes, you don't get out well. But for her to continue this consistency and find different ways how to win, man, she's putting herself in the mix right there at USA Championships in about a month? A month and some change. And so LA, one of the main things many people are talking about in the track and field world, the track and field space, is Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone when she ran 22:07, which is a crazy, crazy time. But for me, and as we've said before, as you previously said just 5 minutes ago, sometimes it's not so much about what you run, but how you run and who you beat in that field, right? In that field was Abby Steiner. She actually ran well coming off of a surgery and an injury herself. Brittany Brown was in that field. Rihazadat Adeleke was in that field. Jenna Prandini, Gabby Thomas was in that field. And Sydney just pulled away from them. And she didn't, it seemed like she was like, look, if you don't catch me now, you're not going to catch me. And she just kept pulling and pulling and pulling. And 22:07, I mean, Mackenzie Long has the world lead at 22:03, 22:04. That's Sydney's first or second race?
First.
No,
you're
second,
right.
Second, right? In the deuce, something that she's not predominantly her main event. She's a 400-meter hurdler. But it's hard to say that when she's ran 11:07 windy in the 100. She's ran 22:03. She runs sub 50 in the 4. She's an athlete, and I think she was not so happy about the race. She wanted to run sub 22. And if you would have said that before the race, you would have been like, yo, what are you talking about? But now that you saw the time, you saw how she ran it, there's no doubt if she runs it again, there's a good chance she can go sub 22. She put herself in the mix right there if she wants to in another event in America. So that was a dominant performance. And again, she's contesting the 400-meter hurdles at trials. But moving forward, that brings some more questions of what she might do next. Also in LA, Tania Marshall, 12:55 in the hurdles. She beat Alyssa Johnson right at the line. Good to see Alyssa run 12:57. She wasn't running too great, but it seems like she's running her way back into form, and she's back there in the mix. Again, the women's hurdles always competitive, always going to be some fast times there. One of the other races, too, I felt like a guy was overlooked. It was in the men's 100, and Kyrie King ran 10:11. In that field was Leslie Tebogo, Aaron Brown, Benjamin Azamate. A lot of people were talking about Tebogo and what he was going to do because he's ran ridiculous fast in the 4, in the 2. And, he still ran 10:13 in the 100, so it was still a good time. And our condolence goes to him and everything that has happened with him and his family. I'm sure he was wearing a little bit of that in this meet as well, too. But to be able to come deal with that, compartmentalize, probably on the track was probably, one of the things that helped him get through this, mindset of it. So, but shout out to Kyrie King. Nobody was really talking about him too much. And for him to come out and beat a quality field, man, that's got to feel pretty good. Let's go to Atlanta. Man, Aaliyah Hobbs, 10:88, another consistent run. She looks good, man. She's a technician. I really like watching her run. You talked about Ry Benjamin being just a pretty runner. That's Aaliyah Hobbs for me. Just high kneeing, stepping, goes through all her phases. 10:88, very, very, very good time. She's going to be tough to beat if she can stay healthy. That's the main thing. Tamara Clark also as well. Anytime you can go sub 11, you're going to be talked about. Oblique Seville was a interesting outcome for me. Most people think of him as a 100 guy, 100 specialist, but he ran 1996 into a negative 1.1
on the
straightaway. And again, this might seem a little crazy what I'm about to say next. I think the 2 might be his better event. And again, this is a 9.8 guy, and I think his 2 might be the better event. And, Jareem Richards was in that race as well, too, and he almost broke 20 seconds. But that's just a straight 200. That's hard to do. I feel like I would get bored running just straight, just like that. So, again, very, very, very good times on the straightaway. That makes it even much more impressive, honestly. Men's 100, Akani Simbini, 9:90. Man, Akani, it's your year, man.
World lead?
Yes, world lead.
Wow.
But the thing is, for me, previous couple of years, Akani has been getting in that fourth place position, just missing out on a medal, just missing out on the podium. It seems like, he's back to where he finished last time, and we'll be looking to build off of that and step on that podium and come out on top. Ferdinand Omanyala also ran 10 flat. A lot of people thought that he false started in that race as well. He's got a new coach, so these are some things that he's still working on. He's usually a guy who comes out the gates running 9.8. So it seems like the new coach has been showing him different things, and he's looking pretty good. Grant Holloway was another performance in the men's 110 hurdles, 13:07 world lead. It was probably one of the most technically sound races that I've seen of him. He just kept pulling and kept pulling and kept pulling. If he can consistently get this 13.0, man, 12.9 is going to be easy for him. He's right there. I mean, he's world champion, Olympic champ. Like, he is right there when it comes to, when we're talking about, that 1280 Aries merit record. On the right day, it can be put together. It can be done. It can be reached. So that was another spectacular performance. Noah Lyles, 14:41, 150. I get that's absolutely fast, man. His start wasn't the greatest to me, but one thing about Noah is he's a competitor, and he's always got a top end that you have to make sure you got a good enough lead on him, because he's going to come back and high step his way past you. Zarnell Hughes is also in that mix. There's also 4 guys who actually ran sub 15. That's pretty impressive. I'm not a 150 guy. I don't really put too much stock into it. Like, that's cool. But it's a spectacular time. And, they're trying to mix things up and keep track and field very interesting. But great run from these guys over there in Atlanta. And women, go to Rabat. 2 races for me was Sharika Jackson. That was another thing that was talked about. What shape was she in? How was she going to look? She had pulled out of a couple of races before. She ran 22:82. Now, the time, is it great? No, it's not the greatest. Sharika set that standard, so high that every time that, it's the blessing and the curse, I'd say, in the sport. When you run fast, jump far, all these different things, is when you are at that elite level and you're running so fast, you don't really get that same grace period, because people expect you to come out first race, and come close to her breaking the world record. And that's not the case. She is going to be in shape at the right time when she needs to be. She's proven that before, and I'm sure she will prove that again. Exceptional talent. Again, 22.8. She didn't look the greatest to me from watching it, but she gonna be okay, right? Got to give her a little bit of grace. She will be in shape and be ready at the appointed time. But it's just good to see her back running. It's good to see her doing her thing again. Men's 100, Emmanuel Esme, man, the time wasn't great. 10:11, the time wasn't great, but he beat a quality field. Andre DeGrasse was in that field, Jeremiah Zhu, Johan Blake, Rohan Watson. He beat a quality field, and he came on strong in the second half of that race, especially going into lane 7. You don't have to worry about nobody. Like, it's just you out there. And he did a great job of running his race and, being able to beat Andre DeGrasse, Olympic bronze medal champion, like Olympic medalist. That's got to feel good. Andre did look decent, though. That top end is always nice. Good start for him. But again, that was another one that kind of stuck out to me. It was who he beat that I'm sure will make him feel good. And before we move forward to some of the jumps and stuff that stuck out to me, got to give a shout out to the junior college athletes out there. Junior college nationals was this past weekend, and 2 names that I got to give a quick shout out to. Anita Afrifa, double champ, 11:49 and 22:98. It's very tough to double at the junior college level. And I also got to give a shout out to someone that we mentioned earlier in an earlier episode, was Tapawanshi Maraku, who ran 10:04 and 20:08. Wow. What a time. Shout out to both of those 2. Shout out to junior colleges all over the country. One of the field events that I want to shout out real quick, you already talked about Tara Davis Woodall. Man, Beautiful performance from her. I'm going to keep it in the jumps. I'm going to talk about the young buck, 19 years old, Matteo Furlani. Look, let me tell you this man's schedule. On the 15th, this man jumped over in Italy, 8:36, right? Later that week, he said, man, I'm going to fly down and I'm going to jump again. So he 8:36 on the 15th, then on the 20th, 17th, he came and jumped again. Like, that's not a light flight from Italy. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a, you know, he didn't worry about the time change, what food he was going to eat. He didn't worry about none of that. So for him to be able to jump those 2 times in 2 different parts of the world, distances, that was pretty impressive. The jump, 8:06, wasn't the greatest, but man, the field that he beat, he's going to see those guys, and that's got to make him feel good going into Olympic trials for him and Olympics later that year. So shout out to him. If we have missed any performances, any performance that you want to highlight, please let us know in the comment section below. We said a lot, but I'm sure that we missed a lot as well too. Whatever you like, what stuck out to you, what you thought we should have highlighted, let us know in the comment section below. Which brings us to the performer of the week.
You go first.
My performer of the week, I'm going to give it to Grant Holloway. I'm going to give it to Grant because, you know, sometimes when someone runs consistently fast, we take that stuff for granted. And he's been at that level, running this consistently, this efficiently for years. But he hasn't really run a whole lot of races this year. So for him to run less races and still run at the time that is at, you know, he's almost about to break 13 seconds and he hasn't even ran 110-meter races in under 5 times? Mm-hmm. That's impressive. That's impressive to me. So Grant Holloway gets the performer of the week for me.
I'm going to go with RYR Benjamin because of how it looked. And like you said, people don't really give props to people who we expect to run fast, but just because we expect it doesn't mean they're always going to do it. And he showed up and he ran a world lead. Was that his first 400-meter hurdles of the season? Mm-hmm. You know, that's you just got to give him his props. The way it looked, he didn't even look tired in his interview. Like, I'm just really excited to see. He's so hard on himself. And so I hope he's proud of his first 400-meter hurdles of the season, because we are proud of him. And I definitely give performer of the week to RYR Benjamin. Yeah,
and you got to mention Sydney McLaughlin-LeVrone as well too. 1A, 1B, like she's part of in that mix as well too. Let us know who your performer of the week is. So there was a question that All in the Game 01 wrote down, and he wanted to get your thoughts on it. First of all, shout out to you for all your comments. Man, we really appreciate it. He wanted to know something about the 800. I'm not versed in the 8 to really talk about it. I'm just going to read a little bit of what he says. He says, he was pleased to see Arkansas' Sanu Jallow give Michaela Rose the closest race she's had since she lost to Juliet Whittaker at the NCAA indoors. So I'm always a little concerned when someone so dominant goes a long time without a competitive race and then gets a shock to the system like Michaela did. Given her 2-5 losing record versus Whittaker, just wondered if it might be worth it if she's able to run a different way when needed. Could be completely wrong on this. Would be interesting to hear Chanelle's take on it as a former 800-meter runner. So what is your take on this?
I loved this comment. I loved this point that On the Game 01 made. It was a similar point that people made throughout my career, because similar to Michaela Rose, I was a front runner. I liked to take the lead, keep the race honest, catch me if you can type style. And my coaches throughout my career used to tell me, Chanelle, it's okay to lead races, but we also want you to be able to win the 800-meter from the pack, from the back, from the shoulder of the front runner. The best 800-meter runners can win from anywhere in the race. And so I tried it a few times. I tried to sit on the leader's shoulder, or, towards the end of my career, you saw me try to win from the back or the middle of the pack. And so I think you make a very good point that she should be able to race different styles, not always go to the front. But I'm 99% sure that she is similar to me. She feels most comfortable in the front. She feels most comfortable pushing the pace, and that's okay. But what she has to learn is, how do I win from the front? Because like On the Game 01 said, Juliet Whitaker is someone who will just sit on her and then use her kick to pass her at the end. And that's not a good feeling. It's happened to me a lot of times. But she can beat someone like Juliet. 2 ways she can do that. One way my coach taught me was take it out faster. Take that kick out of Juliet's legs, bring her through 56 seconds, shock her system, and then she may not, we're hoping she won't have the kick that we've seen her have. That's one way. Another way is Michaela backing off a little bit, because she seems to always be pressing. So just relax a tad bit. It's a happy medium that she's going to have to find. But if she just relaxes a little bit, now they both have finishes. They both have kicks at the end, but we're betting on Michaela having just as good as a finish as someone like Juliet if she backs off just a little bit. And that's what I did when I won the World Indoor Championships. JJ Clark said, Chanelle, just back off a tad bit. And then I was able to finish better than anybody else in that race. So I think that Michaela feels comfortable out front. I think that if you're going to beat her, she wants you to have to run fast to beat her. That was my attitude as well. I don't want to lollygag through the 400 meters in 60 seconds, 61 seconds. No, we're going to run. And if you're going to beat me, you're going to run a fast time. And so I love that attitude. I think she will continue to lead, but I think maybe she'll have to change her strategy just a tad bit in order to beat somebody like Juliet.
What she said. What she said.
But keep the comments coming. We love them. We will address them. It's fun to get comments like that. So thank you, All in the Game, for that.
As we get to the end of the show, we got to finish with your run of your race topic. We're usually always, pretty serious, and that's usually my doing. But, today we're going to be talking about something a little bit different. If you could be elite at any other event, what would that event be?
Want me to go?
I sure do.
This may shock you, but I would say the 100 meter. Just to be named like the fastest woman in the world, like that's so cool. And I know that the 100 is tough in a different way than the 800. Like 800 is lactic and just grind. 100 is like technical, and the start and the phases. And so it would just be so different than what I'm used to. And I'm very like type A focused. So I think that technicality of it and learning the phases and learning the blocks is something that I could have been good at. It may have been a negative thing that I'm so type A, because I would have obsessed over every little thing. But the 100-meter dash, I think that would. And then also they get paid the most. When you're the fastest woman or the fastest man in the world, those sponsors hop on that and they want to support you financially. So that would have also been cool to have all those big bucks in the sport. So
big bucks. For me, I would step away from the track and I would go into the fields, and I'd be a long jumper. I'd be trying to jump out that pit, be working on my form. I'm trying to figure out, do I want to do the running man in the air, that form, or do I want to just let it hang? I have so much respect for field athletes. in this particular category, since we're talking about jumps, you know, you talked about sprinting being technical. That's technical as well too. You know, to be able to run 40 meters or whatever it is, and trying not to run too fast that you miss the board, right? Timing is everything, it seems like, in the jumps. But I think it'd be pretty cool, man, to be able to soar up, right? And to be able to kind of defy gravity a little bit. That would be very, very cool. And I'd also want to be one of those people I'd want to see what it feels like to jump like 880.
You know what's also cool though in the field is they're so supportive of one another.
Oh yeah,
they're clapping each other on. Like it's like
you're not getting that in the sprints.
No, like they truly want each other to do well. So that I like that choice.
And it reminds me of like the jumps, you know, watching Christian Taylor and Will Clay, how they used to go back and forth. Like that would be cool.
Yeah, you
at least get 3 attempts. 6 attempts if you make the final. In sprints, you don't really get that much time. You know what I'm saying? If you're not having a good day, it's over with. But I just think and I'd be interested to see what that training would be like. And I think that's one of the things in track and field as well too is, you know, every event has that threshold where they're pushing it. It just looks different. So 100 for you, long jump for me. If you could be elite at any field event or track event, what would that be and why? Let us know in the comment section below. There's a lot of stuff happening next week, and you know, we get to cover it next week. But before we go, as we talked about in the beginning, like, comment, share, subscribe to the channels. Help us get those subscribers up so we can continue to bring you more, reach a broader audience, and who knows what we'll have in episode 20. Maybe we'll get a guest. Nice. If you have an idea, let us know in the comment section below. So with all that being said, that's it. Episode 13 is out, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.